Happy Friday. Welcome back to the Market Mindset. Today, we're diving into one of the most geopolitically significant and geologically rich regions in the world, the Central Andean Copper Gold Belt of Peru. And joining us is Patrick Elliott, the president and CEO of Forte Minerals, a company that's been quietly, up until now, assembling and advancing a pipeline of high-impact exploration targets in the shadows of some of the biggest producers on the planet. So think, Barrick's Perina, Newmont's Yanacocha. I'm decimating some of these mine names.
Yanacocha, yeah.
Yeah, Yanacocha. The Chinalco's Toromocho and Southern Copper's Michiquile. They're all in the neighborhood. And normally, I'm not a closeologist where you're close to other projects, except when you have amassed what they have and what they've kind of put together here as well. And as I'd hinted, people are catching up to this story very quickly. The stock is held up, and they've done incredible financing. This is a grassroots explorer company, but with a very significant technical crew and a very well-financed position with a strategic partner. So we're really looking forward to getting the details as to what this last partnership looked like, what it means, and let people remind them, for those that are in the stock already, what they're holding on to, and also to get people excited about what is happening here in this region. So, Patrick, welcome back. It's great to have you, and congratulations on all the success so far.
Thanks so much for having us back. It's an honor to be here, and excited to share the updates and the story.
Well, you guys, like you said, it's been kind of a slow story for you on your side, because you've been amassing this for quite some time. A lot of hard work over a decade, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. But to anybody new, including myself, it's just been a couple of years with incredible results and finally getting a much more ignition out there in a very challenging market. And over the summer, it's very exciting to see.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, you can't assemble a portfolio like this in a couple of years. So this Forte Copper that's publicly traded as of like 3 years ago, this was exercise that started over 20 years ago in Peru with the same team you see here. It was predominantly the core team that we advanced Zafranal porphyry copper gold deposit that's now being put into production and development by Teck Resources. So we all met there, and we were involved in the initial 100 plus holes of drilling the initial resource, and decided, let's go find more alteration anomalies like this. They're it's relatively underexplored in Peru, and you can find these high sulfidations and porphyry alterations on surface. And so that's what we did. And you got to be patient through the downturns. You got to be very versatile and act quickly when land comes available. But in the good times, everything staked up, and before we knew it, we had 38 properties in our private entity, and we took the best 2 gold projects, 2 porphyry coppers, and spun them out of Globetrotters into Fortes. These are projects we wanted to move forward ourselves, build as much value as we could for our shareholders by not optioning them out or joint venturing them out, which is, more the methodology of the private project generator.
I think that's a good place to start before we get into the strategic positioning, and the partner that you've got here is reminding people what the long-term goal for you and Forte Minerals is. For example, like you're a project generator rather than, we intend on building a mine and going into production. And I always like to bring back that kind of basic conversation for newcomers to go, are we building a mine? So that they know what's part of that Lassonde curve they're on, and where you guys are focused on delivering value.
Oh, I mean, certainly. I mean, we're looking for big alteration anomalies and prospects that essentially build a pipeline for the mid-tiers and majors. These aren't small occurrences that we would put into production ourselves. These are you're an elephant country. I mean, you named a few there, but like it's impressive, the metallogenic belts in southern, central, and northern Peru. A lot of really good news coming out of Peru lately with the billions of $5-6 billion of development mine money that's being allocated in the near term. So you're going to see more of that. And, Peru's always been on the map, but yeah, it's like you often have to remind people, it's number 2 and number 3 flops back and forth in copper production worldwide, and gold, it's in the top 10. At some points it's 6, but Yanacocha, still Newmont Buenaventura, is the number 1 gold mine, biggest gold mine in South America, and so there's more of those high sulfidations, and that's really what we're after here. And we take on a lot of social community risk, as well as discovery, but try and balance that. And that is a big part of our expertise and our programs is managing the social engagement, community risk with the geological risk. But as you'll see with Alto Ruri, the discovery's been made in the 90s, and fortunately, it was preserved for us, or else we wouldn't have had a crack at it. This is something we staked 10 years ago in competition in the worst part of the cycle, where it's inevitable, but it happens every time in these downturns that the majors and mid-tiers have to relinquish all their exploration assets and trim the fat and focus on optimizing production. So we were able to get into Alto Ruri here, stake it, albeit initially in competition with another mid-tier copper company, but since then, in the last couple of years, we've overcome that. We got 100% of that, and we gave up a 1% royalty to that partner that initially was a 50-50. So 100% controlled by Forte, no option payments. We staked it for the cost of staking, and this has a chance of being the next tier 1, tier 2 gold deposit in Peru. And you can see from the initial grades, there hasn't been much work done since the late 90s, and several majors controlled it for 12 years, essentially waiting for time would change, right? Let's let the dust settle and the community would come back on. And it wasn't like, it was just an event back in the 90s. It was unfortunate, but it was the way that explorers operated, and there was an event with a fire and drill rig and diesel spill and on site, and it just plagued the whole community, and no one really went in there and did a thoughtful, dedicated program in order to see what were the issues and how can we help and whatnot. And so and I get that, but the whole approach now with most companies in the sectors is changed, right? And it's and so we're unlocking a tremendous amount of value here just on this project by enlisting trust and engaging for the last couple of years with the community, and to generate a long-term access agreement where we can get it drill permitted with a DIA. So in this sector, it's an indigenous community that's next door, so you need a DIA. And there's a path to get that drill permitted and test this system. You can't find these anymore. These are very tough. I mean, the world gets really small when you start looking for 5+ million ounce gold deposits that the alterations there and the mineralization on surface. But you can see the grades. I think you have them on the screen there. But from surface, 54 meters of 5.4 grams. That was the first hole put into this, but very shallow holes. There's 8 diamond holes and 4 RC holes, about 150 meters deep, just targeting where they saw high-grade gold in geochem rock samples back in the 90s. So never been systematically, properly mapped, explored with geophysics and whatnot. So that would be the first thing, getting in there and running all the best resistivity geophysical surveys that pick up that advanced argillic buggy silica. This is a classic high sulfidation gold occurrence that's carries a lot of silver too, but it's just south of Pucarini. Barrick mined 10 million ounces. Mined 10 million, and I think produced just about 8, and heap leach. But you can mine this stuff with a spoon. It's I think at one point, I know in the late 90s, this was the lowest cost gold producing asset on the planet at $49 an ounce. And
that's insane.
I hate to say it, but it put Barrick on a map. Peter Monk and Alex Davison, when they acquired this from Arequipa Minerals for $1.1 billion, it was predicated that there was 5 million ounces at Pucarini, right? And that was based on 9 drill holes, which is less than inferred, but it's just phenomenal grades. To surface, and it turned out to be a phenomenal operation for 20 years for Barrick, and it's in mine closure now. But Alto Ruri was preserved for us, so we're fortunate there. But in the district too, you know, Highlander Silver at San Luis, like just remarkable. You probably follow it, some of the viewers, but you know, they worked really hard to get that community on site over there, started drilling in June, and you know, following up on the historic San Luis drill results from, you know, Esperanza Silver way back when they had it. But I mean, the Augusta Group and Richard Wark and Highlander Silver and these guys are doing a phenomenal job, and it's 25K to our northwest. We're still in that same Cordillera Negra belt, but lots of very important, structurally controlled north-south and northwest structures here that, you know, we're the conduits for the hydrothermal fluids that brought all this gold and silver to Pucarini and Alto Ruri. I mean, talk about synergies here. Like I can keep going on, but like it's volcaniclastic at both Alto Ruri and Pucarini, Miocene age, that's been confirmed. You know, the gold is in that advanced argillic vuggy silica. So how do you find that? It's with highly resistive geophysical surveys. We'll be able to, you know, map out and target where these drill programs will go. And yeah, it's gonna be really exciting, but a few big catalysts to unlock value is obviously long-term, which we have, you know, line of sight on long-term. And I'm talking 3 to 4 year long-term agreement with the community to be able to meet these drill permitting, do all the surface programs that need to be done. And, you know, we've been, you know, obviously well endorsed from a strategic investor that's recently come in, you know, at a premium that predominantly is focused on Alto Ruri, and they know a lot about it, and they were able to do a bunch of surface work and relogged all the core. I mean, that's another thing. Like 1997, like
Yeah.
1997, we have the 8 core holes. I mean, what's left of the core holes has been sampled once, right? Half did, and then we quartered it. We're able to resample it all to confirm all the historical results. And then now do all the, you know, TerraSpec hyperspectral analysis on it to confirm, like, what are the mineral assemblers, the alteration mineral assemblers? Are they the same as Pucarini, and what are we dealing with? And so that's really exciting to be able to do all that. We've had that in our core shack in Lima for about 10 years now, because yeah, the predecessor a major mining company that had it, they had it in good custody, and previous to that another major. So it went down that line of custody really well, and it transferred, and we have the core. But it's pretty hard 28 years later to have core intact that you can actually work with. So that's given us a lot of insight into what we're dealing with.
I think what's fascinating too, because I've run into this in other businesses and other commodities and whatnot, is that sometimes just personality can kill a deal. And that sounds strange to someone outside of business or just a retail investor. They think, oh, if you've got something or you found something, just drill it and go get it. And it's like, well, slow down, hold on. Sometimes just personality can kill a deal, even a good deal that makes sense. But especially you're in a difficult business of having to get a great project in a great region, is that there's so many stakeholders. And not only is it not just about respect and how you approach and do they feel like they're a stakeholder. I mean, these kind of what they call soft skills, or people feeling included in something. It isn't just catchwords. It isn't just people going, oh, it's just ESG, and it's not really important. It's like, no. People need to really understand that sometimes, whether it's management or someone on another side or something, you can kill deals by not just behaving properly or really working with stakeholders. And we can see that time and time again in any extractive resource. And I think it's important that people really understand that, because that also leaves the door open for someone to get a project that maybe they wouldn't be able to get to otherwise. And that might be part of the story here as well, is that you guys have spent a lot of time and a lot of work on that stakeholder engagement, where it's really making a difference.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm an economic geologist, and I don't know a whole lot about the ESG and social. I didn't before, but it's such a big part of our business. I feel like, you know, becoming an expert at it. But it is a huge part. It has to be comprehensive. Consistency is probably the most important. It's not like once a month or on a weekly basis with these communities and the people. It's every day, and that's what's changed. Like when I first moved to Peru from Chile 20 years ago, it wasn't that intensive, the social engagement. It was still a part of it, but it's now become a daily affair, and it's cost efficient, but it's the dedicated effort of building trust. If you're committed to a project, you don't ever want to leave. So that's what's changed, and obviously the strategy and whatnot, but certainly there's a lot of examples with other major mining companies on deals that have been made there, and a lot of it is we're an exploration company. We're looking to find something. We're not building a $4 billion porphyry copper right now. So it's also managing expectations and making sure that there is benefit at each step along the way to the stakeholders and the communities and whatnot. And that they understand that. Like, we have to get to A before we get to C, and along the way too.
And that manages the expectations. They're not unfamiliar with how big things can go. As you said, there's lots of neighbors nearby that would see, holy smokes, that region really took off and got heavily invested in infrastructure and everything else for the entire community, that they know at stake is something very exciting. And often we can get too tunnel focused on the business. I got to do all of the work, like you're saying, all the geochem, all of the assays, all the drilling, the running of the business. Is that when you have someone who is also reminding themselves that I have to let these people that we're working with, they are full-on stakeholders, that it's not a lot, but it is just something they have to be on your mind. And it's easy to not be, but once they feel like they're really being heard and listened and you're working with them, generally, I would say 8 or 9 times out of 10, they're generally pretty good about things. It's that kind of old school arrogance that in the 80s maybe or 70s that come in and we're going to do something and just get it done. It doesn't fly very well anymore.
No, certainly. And I mean, there's a lot of expertise in country. I mean, back 20 years ago, there's a lot of expat geologists now, or then living in country. Now it's different. The expertise is there, but with this new strategic investor that came in, we're able to put together a really good relationship and a foundation with them, whereby we have access to all of their in-house expertise, whether it be technical, social, legal, whatnot, for all of our projects at any point in time at no cost to us. And so that's huge for us, because we're a small team. We're building now as we need to build. We're drilling Pucarini, the other high sulfidation in Puno, slated now, it looks like mid-September at the latest, to start turning that inaugural program. And so you need more resources when you do that. And so we have access to that strategic investors resources, really helping, plus the oversight, the advisory there, it's huge. And so what often happens now is everybody's mostly focused on these gold high sulfidations, whether it be Alto Ruri, moving that forward, unlocking value, or drilling Pucarini. But have you forgotten about Esperanza? I mean, this is in the Paleocene belt. It's a porphyry copper moly that's never been drilled. It was staked and worked on, held by Teck Resources for many years. And unfortunately, they had to drop it. And we staked it, I think it was 9 years ago, right? And so we've done a fair amount of work there, but still has never been drilled. And porphyries, yes, they're capital intensive to go in there, maybe 3,000 to 5,000 meters on an initial deep hole, 10-hole program at Esperanza, but it's in the Paleocene of southern Peru. I mean, this is elephant country, like Cerro Verde. I mean, that's been in production since the last ice age, and probably go to the next one. And it's like these mines are 80, 100 years old. And so, it's important because what you're looking for in these porphyries is grade, enrichment blanket, a preserved leach cap, and certainly age is very important here in the belt. And we have all those there. You go to Esperanza, and any porphyry geologist that knows what they're doing steps on ground there, and they won't leave until a rig comes in, right? So the next thing actually we're going to do at Esperanza now, you get sidetracked on these programs. You can't run them all at the same time, but I want to do an MT there. Our whole team has been wanting to do an MT. It worked out so well on the last few porphyries, we did for Element 29, our sister company, at Elida, and it's phenomenal, down to 2K, and really builds out new targets, and shows you, especially with existing drill holes, where with mineralization, oh God, just keep going deeper, you're almost there at the point.
Walk me through walk me through an MT just for someone who's new that goes, okay, what do you mean by that? Why does this make a big difference? What are you seeing as someone on the ground when you're doing that?
Magnetotelluric. So it's just the way you set it up, but like certainly we go like 5K by 4K on this anomaly. So coverage beyond that phyllic zone into the propylitic, and so that you're covering all. And it's important like where you send the stations up, but like honestly, Richard Osman, our like chairman and founder, and he's the CEO of Element 29. He is a geophysicist. He was a chief geophysicist for Anglo for many years. So like he's the expert on it, and he's taught us a lot about how we can deploy different surveys and be impactful and how they can correlate together. But MT just goes deep. It deals with a lot of the noise too, because at Esperanza we have a colluvial cover that. It's a blanket of quaternary cover that actually protected and preserved this leach cap. So the leach cap's exposed, as you can see here in these photos, but further up, it's really hard to get through with IP. The chargeability will not penetrate through these quaternary colluvial covers, whereby MT will, right? You can pick up some resistivity in the IP and it generates some targets. But we want deep targets, broad. And MT can really help put all that together. But it's an intensive survey. Like it'll take a month, and it'll cost $250,000 Canadian. And we're capitalized now to do that. So
yes. And you touched on something like with the chairman over at Element 29 and as Globetrotters and whatnot, but also in this deal with the strategic, which we're not going to ask you, but of course, I'm sure everyone's probably bugging you. Who is this? Who is the strategic? Who's the strategic? Because they paid 90 cents for the deal, which we'll get into how you managed to do that. But are they also offering up like services as well? Like that they've got a technical team. Are you able to use like? Are there extra things?
Exactly.
Yeah, I thought I read that.
I mean, we'll be able to. You just have access to that, and it's just more of like a relationship building, but access to all the resources. That was just part of the deal that we carved in there. But it just goes to like these assets like Alto Ruri are very hard to come by. So there's competition in the space, and other gold and copper companies want these assets. There's not enough time to go out and grassroots, and start looking for these, doing generative work. They want to go right after, known discoveries that they feel have the potential to be tier 1, tier 2. So,
and it is very quick that you've got this strategic that clearly, obviously, is as an insider. They've put in a good.
No, not an insider yet, but they're not
an insider of the company, but an insider into the sector. They obviously know the sector very well. It isn't just some sort of strange, person. Like they've got a technical team. So all of these kind of things that we read in the press release. Although we don't know who it is, we're going, oh wow, this person either thinks they know what they're on to, they recognize what you guys are doing, to pay such a premium as well. I mean, that alone, for if someone who's a retail investor and they're looking for a stock to be considering, is you can rely on, if you're not a geophysicist or you're not an engineer or you're not in mining, is that someone was willing to come in and offer you a pretty sweet deal for what you've got. And if nothing else, that third-party endorsement of someone giving you that kind of money, that's in a very tough market and in a tough exploration market, that speaks volumes. And I'm trying not to be too promotional, but that's just the facts as they stand.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, it goes to speak to the quality of the asset, really. But it also, I mean, it made a lot of sense strategically for us to do so, because it will help expedite all these things we talked about from the drill permitting, especially. I mean, when you're working with a strategic investor like this, they can expedite and help with their resources in order to achieve all these different catalysts quicker. And that's important, right? And that's
the thing. I mean, I would say, not to sell yourself short, the technical team that you guys have as well and amassed is, that has to come with the fact that, yes, you've got an incredible project, but it is that technical team that you've got, including yourself, on top of the fact that you've also done all the social work, like every factor that, even if someone thinks, oh, that's not a big deal, you guys have considered it and you've thought about it. You've had enough time to think about it, but you've thought about it down the road as well. Like, what are we going to need in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years? And all that work is already being done and being considered right now. And I think that shows when someone makes a deal with you, is that this is the right team to be handling this type of project, to steward it forward.
Certainly. And I mean, a lot of the original senior geologists that I worked with under when I first moved to Chile in 2003, I think it was, and Frankie worked on Frankie and Rosario Durango. Anyways, like Tom Henriksen, he's heavily decorated. He's a PhD geologist from Spokane, Washington. But like I worked under Tom, and we moved into Peru pretty early in 2004. But like Tom has 5 discoveries in Peru that people forget about that with his work from Rio Tinto prior to that, right? So he's still a founder and advisor with us. And talked to Tom yesterday. He's in Uganda. Jesus, Tom, what are you doing in Uganda and Kenya border? I mean, we'll bring him back down to Peru in September, and he's just fired up to come back there. But I mean, Tom, he discovered Pucarini, big part of the Constancia, which is in the porphyry that Hud Bay has in there. Like these are all Rio Tinto generations, like Pastos Grande and the borites in Bolivia. And so, it wasn't like the cowboy country back then, but we would take a lot more risk going up to regions that, we were taking a lot of risks for ourselves, not for our shareholders. We were taking risks for ourselves going there, looking at some of these occurrences that, we're a little off the beaten path, but he discovered Oyachea as well. Minera IRL has that. So just like a phenomenal deck there, but Hot Madden in Turkey, like that was Tom. I learned a lot from him. But then when we started drilling Zafranal, Tom Henderson was there, senior geologist. I was there, project geologist. And then we met Manuel Montoya. And like Manuel was like, I don't know, 2.5 decades of Kamenko and Teck and whatnot. And so Teck had Zafranal. I mean, Manuel was the discoverer of Zafranal. He went in there on a burro, like a donkey. He's like 3 days in on a donkey to find it.
Those are the best stories.
he got on a sat phone, like stake it right now to Tech's office. And so, it takes a while for these porphyries to come. It probably would have been put in production 10 plus years ago if the market had held on, but came off in 13, 15. So it got shelved a bit, but hey, it's one of their top, I think 5 or 6 development projects in the company, right? For the next, so it's not a monster porphyry, but the grade is impressive. That enrichment blanket at Zafranal is, that 1% chalcocite, 90 to 100 meters. Plus they found a lot of deep high grade as well later on in the program. So it's phenomenal. So, that's why we all kind of formed together. Manuel came with us after leaving Teck and starting this project generator to go find more things like this. And with Richard Osman's, he's got some phenomenal algorithms that he developed on this remote sensing stuff with Anglo that he wanted to apply to South America. And that was the reason for this new generator, this startup that was, funded from like our family and other brokers at Haywood back in 2008 to go down to Peru and Argentina. Well, we haven't even got to Argentina yet. We haven't even been able to leave Peru, right? So because there's so many good targets that we generated from this remote sensing, picking up this argillic fillet alteration from space, right? And Peru's tough with remoteness. Like we don't fly helicopters there anymore. I mean, there's been some really bad accidents, like you guys know, like the major company executive stuff that you just don't fly them because it's too high risk with it. Yeah. The weather. It looks real nice on the coast, nice and sunny, and you fly up into the Cordillera and it's different. So getting to these properties is tough. I mean, we had 300 anomalies initially, prioritized the top 50, and then I think we've probably made it to 40 of them in 15 years or whatnot. But some of them are staked, some of them come anyways. It's a process, and that's why I just want to reiterate, it takes a while to generate this stuff, but man, when you get there and put the portfolio, if you can survive the downturn and fuel and service the cost on these through a good market, then you're in a good position now. So.
And you guys are certainly in a good position. I mean, people are really waking up. Whatever stage people think that extraction and mining is at, people are waking up to the entire critical metals story, to the level of copper we're going to need, but they love just the gold story in regards to just what's happening in the economy with debt levels and whatnot. People are really paying attention to, if you want robotics and AI and you want any of these things, it requires a ton of copper, a ton of electricity, and a ton of new energy. And that is really coming to the forefront. And it's been kind of sneaking along a little bit, but people are out there. The retail investor is starting to put it together. So it is great timing for you guys. Tell me in that scope of things, and you mentioned Argentina. We've talked a lot about Argentina on the show and some of the changes they've made there, and they've really attracted money into Argentina. What's Peru like right now as far as permitting? And we know you've got great social license there as well, but how is the permitting looking in Peru?
Oh, I mean, it was horrendous for years. Like, during COVID and whatnot, and it was just a bottleneck. Really, they just didn't have the resources there, and Peru got hit really hard. Just they didn't have the health infrastructure as well during that. So the drill permitting, just turned into a giant stack on the bottleneck. Right, it was just red tape essentially. But no, it's always improving, and it is a big, like, they're dedicated to making. They recognize, like, this is, our most important sector. It's the biggest part of our GDP, and look at the growth over 20 years, and we're building a middle class for the first time. So no, they recognize it's important, and they put it in the infrastructure and the resources in place now that drill permitting's improved, but the permitting on everything, and just the whole system, because it's really, you can get everything aligned with all your studies. It's very thorough and comprehensive doing these environmental assessments prior to your first drill program, versus other places like Nevada. You can get it in a week. I'm going with one page to the BLM and wherever it is in Nevada, and they give you your drill permit. Like, it's mind-boggling. But yeah, no, it's a 9-month to 1 year process in Peru to get it now. But it has taken 2 to 3 years in the recent history, but we've overcome that, and we can definitely see things are improving a lot. It's getting a lot better. But just back to the Argentina thing. I mean, that's really important what's going on there, because that's shaping, that's leading an example for all the rest of South America. And so you're seeing these other countries follow suit. Like, they're making some very drastic, very big changes in Argentina, but it's working, and it's not over yet, but you're going to see the other countries follow suit, and you already are. And I think it's phenomenal that they're doing that. I mean, it's helping the whole sector, but
it's great to see too that there's so much, and it isn't just like green speak or PR speak. Is that, I mean, I talk to tons of presidents and CEOs of exploration companies here in Canada all the time, and they mean it. They want to do things correctly. They want to work with the government. They do things environmentally. They do it strong. Is that this environment now that we're rolling into, when they can look at what's happening and the billions flowing into Argentina, a place like Peru would go, wait a second, this isn't just talk. This new generation of explorers and miners, they're very committed. They are going to do things properly, efficiently, effectively. And they're going to bring the level of money compared to 10, 15, 20 years ago is going to be astronomical. And it is, especially in tougher environments right now, which is basically a lot of financial distress around the world. It's a big welcoming window of opportunity to go, we could be bringing in significant investment dollars into a country very quickly.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, Peru's had its highlights in the world press. Every 10 years, they go through this ordeal and try and go socialist, but inevitably it gets overcome. They embarrass themselves and they seek asylum in Mexico or whatever happened last time. But like, it's like, you can't make this stuff up. But it's inevitably, like, you would have seen all the major copper, gold, silver companies who are in mid-tiers that are operating, developing, exploring in the country. They would have left a long time ago if it wasn't a stable, safe place to be, whereby they could have the go-ahead on building multi-billion-dollar development asset, whereby they want to be there for 30 years producing. So that's consistent there, and a lot of more new explorers have moved in there in the last few years, like looking for assets. And but you look at the belts now, all the metallogenic belts in Peru. I mean, they're all staked up. Yeah, there's no land available there.
That's good for people to know too. It's like, if you're watching and thinking, oh, maybe I should go down to Peru and stake something. It's like, no. Like, you're 10 years too late. and that's what you're buying with you guys, is you're buying decades worth of the sit and wait, the amassing, the technical ability. And yeah, sure, the company's Forte has only been around for 3 years. But if you're brand new, you're getting all of that stored value up until boom today.
Yeah, and you see there's just massive ports being built in Peru. I mean, just like billions and billions flowing into that for the offtake, whether it's coming from Asian markets or whatnot. But the infrastructure is there, right? And it's not you're not far from these ports, and the power's there, the water's there. Which is challenging for Argentina, man. And that's really, really high altitude where they are up there, and there's no infrastructure yet. But they'll overcome that. But it'll just add to the cost and the capex on putting some of these big assets in production. But what I was going to say about Peru is like southern Peru are some of the cleanest porphyries, and that often gets lost in our business. People are like, look at all these grades from Argentina and northern Peru. It's like, yeah, but like, have you looked at the metallurgy and
yes.
how are you going to mine that? Who's going to buy it? And so a lot of these projects get plagued. Initially there's this huge excitement. They drill it out and take it to pre-fees or whatnot. And then it's just like, oh man, like, what are we going to do here? So that's, it's important for the viewers to know this, like, and it's tough to know about metallurgy and whatnot, but like, there's no arsenic in southern Peru. It's very clean, copper moly, sometimes copper gold moly, porphyries, clean concentrate, and the market, the offtake market loves this, and they want to even get a premium for it. So that's important to know in the Paleocene in southern Peru. But yeah, it's exciting where we are now. Like typically, like I think I'd be in a tank top and board shorts at the beach in summer, but like we got a pretty good market here, but a vibrant audience. And so I won't take up too much of your time, because I'm sure your viewers too want to enjoy the last week of summer here before all their kids go back.
Well, when you've got what you guys have, it's pretty cool. So let me just tackle from one other direction here. The story of Forte as well is that the capital structure and dilution, or really lack of dilution, once again, very easy. A lot of junior mining have to dilute the company. The stock suffers, and then there's an overhanging shelf, and and even good projects. It's like, oh, we got hit by a bad market. We had to raise money down here. It has to be reiterated that in a very tough market, the last 2-3 years, with a lot of people not really interested in exploration, even though, believe me, as we both would agree, they should be.
Right.
You guys have got a capital structure that not only isn't blown out, it's looking awesome. And you're funded, I think, for a year to 18 months or so, or so. What would you say?
Oh, like 3 years probably 3 years. At this point, right? I don't know how we're going to spend all this money in the next year. But no, that is important. Yeah, thanks for touching on that. I forgot we haven't even talked about the cap structure and whatnot, but we're like through the hard times, especially in the last 4 or 5 years, like we trimmed everything, and we focused on just being efficient. Like we didn't want to have to go to the market and raise any money. And I think we've only had, we only raised like probably before this strategic, it was like $4 million since IPO. And so how are you able to do that? Like a lot of companies don't have that flexibility, because they'd have option payments. They got to commit a certain amount to put into the ground with some of these assets they have. And so they were forced to raise money at tremendously low valuations that just dilute and blow out the equity. And so, yeah, we protect the equity, and this thing is drum tight, and we still control a lot of it. But as you can see in the market, we have been bringing in new savvy investment groups and crossing some of the stocks. In April we did some, and then we raised a bit at 40, and then last week we crossed a bit more. And that was, we're very particular on who we bring in. We want them to have the same vision, same long term, that like, yeah, you guys are building something that you're going to sell, and you're looking for tier 1, tier 2 assets like that. And so that's the mythology there, and how we keep the structure going. But what else? Yeah, I mean, we were fortunate not to have to dilute it. So there's 65 million shares out, and I think close to $10 million in the bank right now, $35 million market cap. So
yeah, which is incredible. You like for a junior, you got that much cash sitting in there, and that just reminds people that it's held tightly. Like it will trade, but your buy it will actually affect it. Like you can buy some stocks that it's like you can throw 50 grand at, and you're just going to hit a wall.
There's close to 9 million there. I said 10. But
9 million right cash.
8.7. Yeah, no, and it's it's get really exciting here now. So like you said, 2 weeks, what is it, mid-September, we'll start that inaugural drill program at Pucarini. The rig is it got delayed a bit, and we lost the rig to CUAU during trying to get this definitive done with the strategic investor. And also there's these strikes in Peru at the end of July for that national day that basically they just close down the highways everywhere and slow you down for a week or two. And so the rig is getting there September 15th at the latest. Wait for the first to hold it, start there. But in the meantime, we got some phenomenal data coming out on Pucarini from just all the detailed 3D sections on where these drill holes are going and why, and what those anomalies and targets are that we're chasing the gold down 350 meters there. So that's exciting. And then also on Alto Ruri, a tremendous amount of work was done by our strategic investor during their due diligence phase, like from let's call it, I think it was like 350 man days when you times geologists by the amount of days they spent in core shack or on site. And so lots of data there that to come out with. So let's look forward to that. And then obviously the big, uncovering a tremendous amount of value on a long-term community agreement whereby we can get all these things done that we talked about, from all the surface exercise and programs, geophysics, geology, mapping it like great detail, all the alteration stuff, trenching it, pitting it, before we even get to drilling it. So I know everybody wants you to jump in there with a rig tomorrow and drill 200 meters of 5 grams, but like, guys, let's just hold on here. We got a lot of work to do, and we will get there. It's quite exciting. So we're busy and our team is expanding, and we got a phenomenal team. But like, I was just going to talk a bit about the team, and things have changed a bit now. Like, we've changed the whole strategy, and we've gone back to like building the team with people we trust and we've known our whole lives, or somebody closely, and not kind of hiring people that may be experts or whatnot that you don't know, because it just doesn't work. And we want people that are like very loyal, that we want them to have stock and skin in the game and good options, but also that core that we can trust. And so that's working really, really well. So.
And that's the story you guys have delivered so far in mining, a very short period of time already. And that's the message we put out to people too, as well. You've got to have all those ingredients. You've got to have the team. You've got to have the project. You've got to get the financing. You guys have hit all three. You've got a bunch of catalysts coming up here short term. So people like to see that too. If you want to see, hey, what can move this stock a bit? Patrick just told you 3 things right there in the next little while that could be a catalyst for movement as well. Real pleasure to have you on, Patrick. We love the story. We've been happy to be involved in it for a while now, and it's truly exciting. And it's, once again, it's not seeing a like I'd call the economically viable mine that might have 10-year shelf life. Once again, I'm not saying this is going to become a mine, but forward thinking, these are monsters. These are big, huge ones. The neighbors are 50-year. They're giant deposits. That's what we're looking for here. That's the thesis here with this company. It isn't just a smaller economic thing that might work and is profitable. This is the story that if you're looking for something to find that's significant, that's big, that's going to make an impact, this would be a story that you'd want to get your teeth into.
Yeah, you nailed it there. Thanks, Andrew. And it's always a pleasure to speak with you. And if you ever move back from oil country, let me know. And love to see you in person again. Yes,
we'll do for sure. We'll visit again. We'll be out in Vancouver again soon.
Perfect. Well, thanks again.
Thanks, Patrick. Enjoy a few days left of summer before the fall and jumping back in. But well done. Congratulations on everything. And we're going to keep our eyes peeled to see what news comes out here in the next few weeks.
Yeah, thanks again. We'll be in touch very shortly. And hasta luego.
Take care. Bye-bye.